Hey, Ron. Obviously, the whole team together again. First day in the books. What do you want to accomplish over the next couple of days with the whole team together?
Well, the biggest thing is, especially with the younger players, is we're concerned with their retention. Make sure they're picking up and learning what we've installed the previous 6 practices, and then are we handling the new stuff we're putting in each day? So that's probably the biggest thing. It's about timing and tempo right now as well. We're trying to practice smart out there, make sure nobody gets hurt, but at the same time, get some quality work done. And so far, that's been the thing that's happened. I've been I truly have been pleased with everything we've done since week 5 of the offseason program. So kudos to the players for coming in and doing things the right way.
And Ron, having Chase Young back on the field, how did he look to you today?
He looked good. He really did. He came out and practiced with a lot of energy. He was flying around. And I had to reintroduce him to a lot of people, but it's good to have Chase out there.
Hey, Ron, Heather, how you doing?
Hey, Heather.
Hi. I've kind of a weird question. So when I see our video coming back in and you're talking to some of the guys you're clapping, like as you walking through the line, what do you kind of talk about to those guys in those instances, especially like on a first day like today? It seemed to be a mix of some rookies, some veterans. What goes through, I guess, your mind when you're kind of just chatting up those guys in those initial moments during the stretch?
It really just depends on the individual. I mean, like a guy in the leadership role, leadership position, I try to give him a little something that, hey, let's a little energy out there, because guys will feed off of these, off the leadership. If it's a young guy, kind of ask him how he's doing, how are things coming, you picking things up, got any questions, that type of stuff. And just some other guys, really, how are they doing, checking in on them. If I know a guy's just recently got married, I'll ask him how his wife's doing or something. Somebody just had a baby or a child, I'll ask him how their kid's doing. That type of stuff. I mean, it's not always all about football. It's always really just kind of a check-in to see how guys are doing mentally and physically at that point.
And when you see some of these young guys meet Chase or see Chase for the first time, what's that like? It's
kind of cool. Watch how guys react to people. Especially, somebody that's, in Chase's situation, last year's #1 pick, last year defensive rookie of the year. So I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic to watch some of the new guys, how they react to Chase. So it is kind of cool.
I don't think Darren's on, so we can go Kime, Rhiannon, and then Nikki.
Hey, Ron, with Chase, he was obviously such a big leader for you guys last year. And I know he's been in contact with some of these guys throughout the offseason with you guys. When he comes in today, does it seem like it's just like, hey, back right to his old role? Does it feel that way?
It does. It does. It wasn't as if Chase wasn't working out. It wasn't as if Chase didn't stop in every now and then and work out with the fellas. So that's one thing. And I know he's in constant contact with his coaches and his teammates. I mean, he's got things that he's doing. I understand that. I respect that. And that's the big thing that we try to make sure everybody understands. It is voluntary. I mean, we'd love to have you here, but it is voluntary. And each guy has to take care of themselves and do their things the right way. So, with Chase, it's one of those things. He had a full plate a couple of times and we just couldn't get him out there. So that's ball. But, the mandatory thing here, he's doing the things that he needs to do. He's in great shape. He's working hard. His teammates respect that and appreciate that.
And then with Logan Thomas, what kind of strides have you seen him make during the OTA period? And then now?
He's made some really good strides. I mean, he's got a quarterback background, so he got a little bit of a jump start on a lot of things for a lot of guys. But he's doing great. He's developing. He's growing into the role even more so. It's fun to watch him. He's got good skill set. And he is a guy that contributes a lot for us.
Rhiannon, if Rhiannon's not on, Nikki.
I guess I'll go. Hi, Ron. Do you have any update on Curtis Samuel, John Bostic, and Jimmy Moreland? We didn't see either of those guys out there today.
Okay, so Curtis has got a groin he's dealing with. John and Jimmy both had excused absences today.
And how do you balance, for some of the more established players like Chase and Terry, how do you balance getting them work during minicamp while also ensuring, they're not going too far, they're not risking injury?
I think the biggest thing with that, Nikki, is, we pay attention to them. We slot certain reps for them. If it's something new in terms of installation, we try to make sure they get that early in the drill That way the younger guys will get a little bit more work. We're trying to be aware of our veterans out there and take as much care as we can. At the same time, try and give our young guys a little extra work.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Go JP, Ben, and Pete.
Hey, Ron, obviously overhauling the receiver group seemed like a pretty big priority. How do you feel about that group, after you've been a couple of weeks OTAs, seeing them in minicamp?
Pleased, very pleased. I really am. I mean, as I said, I'm very happy with what we've done as a football team. And I think all the positions came in with a lot of competition, a lot of guys competing with one another. But I am pleased with what we've gotten from the receiver group, because one of the things that we did on purpose, thinking about it, was trying to increase the team speed. We did that through free agency in the draft, and some of our guys from last year who've really stepped back up into their roles and are doing a great job. I mean, this is a very competitive position. It really, truly is. And, we've got some tough decisions to make as a whole, and with that position in particular.
When you talk about the competitiveness at that position, when does the clock start ticking for you guys on, all right, are we going to keep 6? Are we going to keep 7? How do we have to make this puzzle pieces fit?
We're already talking about that. And not just about that particular position, but we've talked about all the positions. It is early, because we still haven't done anything in terms of training camp practices or games. But, as we look at it, we try to figure out how can we fit these pieces into the puzzle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ron, obviously with these practices, it's not the full, no hitting, it's to a certain degree, things like tackling, things like that. So when you're watching the offensive line going up against this defensive line with all that talent, what are some of the keys that you're looking for to see them progressing in as real life a situation as you can have?
Footwork, hand placement, body position and posture, and how do they finish? They're finishing in a football position. Those things are important, and you can work those types of techniques, without slamming into each other and leading with your head and all that stuff. I mean, now's the time to work on your technique. Now's the time to work on your footwork. Some guy may do something and something else, but what you want to see is just these guys moving properly, using good technique, staying in good football positions. So those things are important.
And with regards to the left guard spot, obviously Wes Schweitzer finished off last year. You guys add Eric Flowers. I don't know if Sadiq Charles is in there. What are you kind of seeing so far from that group, and what do you kind of hope to see, going into the season? I
think that's a very competitive position. I think all of our positions up front are very competitive. We've got a lot of good depth in there. I really what we've gotten from Chase and Brandon. As far as that group is concerned, very solid. Cornelius Lucas came back in great shape, a great mental frame of mind to compete at the right side. Sam Cosme is a guy we drafted who's done a very solid job there. I like what we're getting from Wes and Eric at the left guard position. I think that's outstanding. And then the left tackle has been solid with Charles Leno getting in here and getting an opportunity to work. And we throw Sadiq in there once in a while. I mean, it's a good mixture of young and veteran players that are really developing and helping to solidify our offensive line for us.
Go Pete, Mike Phillips, and Matt Paris.
Hey, Ron, it seems like Taylor Heineke, every day we're out here, whether it's a high snap that he's bobbling, then still, or a guy's in his face and he sidearm it to somebody on the sideline. He has this ability to improvise. Have you noticed that throughout his career, of just being able to make something happen out of nothing?
That just kind of happens with Taylor, I guess. It's one of those things, that he's a guy that knows how to make things happen. I mean, he's got the kind of energy that you're looking for. He's got this sense about him that, it's probably been hard the whole time for him, trying to prove and show that he can play, that he belongs. And so, he's gotten the opportunity. He's doing a heck of a job with it, but that's just kind of what happens with him. He has enough athleticism that he can make things and correct things. And the thing that I also like about what he does too is he also knows when not to. If you ever watch him, I mean, he's always trying to make something happen. But when he knows not to, he'll tuck it and run, but he won't expose it. And that's, I think, one of his strengths, one of his pluses.
And he told us that he had added 15 pounds of muscle. Is that something that, you as a coach will talk to him about, or is that maybe something he just takes up on his own and, let him kind of make the decision there?
It's something we talked about knowingly with him. We just think that, for his style of play, he's got to be thicker. He's got to be stronger. He took it to heart, did a heck of a job. He really did. And he looks great coming back in. I don't know if it's 15 pounds of muscles. I'm going to check his pockets to see what he's putting in when he's won.
Sorry, it might have been 15 pounds. I might have just given him that. That's my bad.
Okay.
Hey, Ron, wanted to ask you about one of the biggest stories down here this week at JMU softball. I saw you were watching the games. What you made of their run through the tournament?
It's really cool. I'm a little bit of a homer. Now I'm up in this area, and JMU was outstanding. I really do like the things that they've done. I like their culture and the way they played softball. It's it's funny because with my wife, with my daughter, with them both, having participated in sports, NCAA sports, we do tend to follow the women's basketball. We tend to follow the women's softball, and so. One thing that I do when I watch games, and not necessarily, the game itself as much as I like to watch the coaching. I like to see what they're doing, how they're reacting. When I got an opportunity to go watch the Wizards, I got to watch Coach Brooks and pay attention to what he was doing and how he does things. And now, when I watch the different sports, I usually watch the coaches as well, the managers, to see how they react to situations and circumstances. What I really loved about the JMU thing was really just the way the team reacted and handled. They played and acted like they'd been there before. They played and acted like they expected to be there. And when you watch the way they play, especially the way Odyssey played at the end, giving it her all, it was reflected in all of them. And I think that's a reflection of their coaching.
Have a Richmond question for you too. You guys announced we were going to come down for the start of camp for a few days. I know that's not the whole training camp period, but what can you accomplish in that 5-day window?
Well, the biggest thing, and it kind of fits nicely because we have an acclimation period that we have to do where we're not going to be in pads that first week down there. So we'll go down, we'll check in on Tuesday, we'll have our meetings, we'll have our conditioning tests, and then we'll start practice on Wednesday, which will be pretty much a practice just like we've got going. We'll do that for a couple of days, and we'll put the shells on Friday and Saturday, and we'll finish up Saturday morning. We'll head back up here to Ashburn. We'll pick up and start camp after they have their day off on Sunday. We'll come back in on Monday and get rolling again. But up here, we'll have mostly all of our padded practices. It just kind of works out that way. We owed it to Richmond to get back down there and re-engage with our fan base. And that's important that they know that they're important to us. But we still have some COVID issues that we still got to be aware of. And because of that, it probably might have been a little bit hard to try and do an entire normal training camp there this year, and we'll see how it goes. But, just want to make sure the folks down in Richmond and all our fan base in that area know that we do appreciate their support, and we hope to get them back.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Paris.
Hey, Ron, I wanted to ask about Chase Young. Kind of seen with other elite pass rushers over the years, they take a big step in terms of sack totals in year two. Like Khalil Mack went from 4 to 15 his second year. Is that the next step for him? I mean, I know he was super productive his first year, but is that kind of what you want to see with those numbers in his second year? But
I'm not necessarily if you want to talk about numbers as much as you want to talk about impact.
Sure.
Again, I think a guy with his ability and what he's done, his impact shows, and as does a lot of our guys. I mean, you watch the way we get inside push; those guys pushing may not get the numbers, but they impact the ability of Chase and Tez to make plays. I mean, Chase and Tez are coming off the edge; they may not be making the plays, but hopefully our interior push is making those plays. So it's a group of guys that are working very well together, and that's the thing that you want to see in terms of growth and development. Because it's a good unit, it really is. I mean, if you really think about it, our first 4 guys are all first rounders. They're all guys that have their own special abilities and talents, and hopefully they can continue to grow and develop as a unit.
And with that experience under his belt just that first year, are you seeing kind of that growth now of him, I don't know, reacting to double teams better? Or how are you kind of seeing that growth manifest itself after year one?
I hope to see it. After the first practice, there were some things that we liked. I'll get an opportunity to really take a look at the practice tape in about half an hour and really kind of break it down and see what he looks like. But as you do that, and it was like the same thing when Montez came here last week. You got the tape, took a look at some things, and you see that he's getting more and more comfortable using his length, using his quickness off the edge, and then you watch what Jonathan seems to be working on, and Duran and Matt Ioannidis. I mean, there's a good group of that group in our main core of our interior, our defensive line that is working very well and grasping what we're doing very well, especially now because we're in our second season.
Thank you.
Got time for a couple more.
Hey, Ron, in your defensive ends, I don't think you have anybody with more than 2 years in the league. And I was wondering, choice because you have a guy who's maybe ahead of schedule leadership-wise with Chase, or is that just how things ended up?
That's really pretty much how things ended up. I mean, it's interesting because last year, when you looked at our receiving group, at one point we put 5 guys out on the field that I had more experience as a player than they did. I had 9 years, and I think at one point we had like 8 years of experience among 5 guys. So it's that's just kind of the way it is right now. And we'll take it because they're young guys that are playing and they're young guys that are developing and growing. And I'm okay with that just because I like our coaches. I think our coaches do a great job of working with these guys. I think these guys are buying into what we're doing and how we're doing it. They're working hard. And again, since, like I said earlier, since week 5, when we got together for the first time and we're able to go out on the field with them and instruct to where we are now, I'm very pleased. I really am, so much so that, like I said, I gave them, we're going to cut it short 3 practices. We're going to do all our installation, all of our work, and what basically amounts to 10 workouts. So I'm very pleased with that.
And last year with the defensive line technique, I think it might have taken a little bit longer than anticipated. But as you said, it's picking up in year 2. I wonder, how do you see that transition? How do you see that experience, I guess, playing forward, if that makes sense?
It does, because when you watch guys practice, they practice faster because they're more comfortable with their techniques. They have a better feel for where they're going, where they need to be. That's the important thing. That's why I always talk about tempo, practicing fast to play fast. It's important that these guys understand how beneficial it is to be well prepared when we get on the football field and understand what we're asking. Because if you go out there and you do the things that you're capable of and play to your ability within the framework of the defense, you'll go fast just because you know where to be. And that's what you look for. So when I put the tape on, I'm watching our guys and trying to see, okay, who's playing fast? When that ball snaps, who's getting into their crease? Who's getting vertical? Where are their hand placements? Are they moving their feet the way they need to move? Because if you're not sure where you're going, you're not going to move your feet in the right direction half the time. So there's a lot of things that we as coaches use as triggers to help us see whether our guys are developing and growing. And that's important to us, that we understand and we watch and we see and we get things corrected or we encourage.
Last 2, Les and Russell.
Hey, Ron. After last year with the COVID, your own health and everything, to actually have a mini camp and do all that again, does this feel very normal now compared to kind of what you went through over the last several months?
It does feel much more normal. It really does. We still have some protocols that we do have to follow as far as social distancing and gathering indoors in crowds and all that kind of stuff. We have to be smart about that. But still being able now to have, what amounted to a 4-week program in person, with 1 week of phase 2, 2 weeks of phase 3, and then 1 week of mini camp. That's pretty cool. It really is. And it gives me a little more chance to get to know these guys better. I mean, it's really hard when you're trying to look at, the little squares on Zoom. And unfortunately, I still really haven't had an opportunity to get to know a lot of you guys. And I hope I do, and I can't wait till when we can do this in person, where I can see your faces a little bit better and kind of get a little better feel for who you guys are.
Chris Russell, last one.
Hey, Ron. I know you said you were going to add speed, or you felt the need to add speed, and obviously you did. And I know you were going to improve the roster no matter what. But how much does a coaching staff, in your case specifically, take into account like this upcoming year's schedule and more, I guess specifically the gauntlet of great quarterbacks that are on it? Do you take that into consideration, or is it just we need to improve in these positions regardless of what everybody else is doing in the division or on the schedule?
I think the big thing is you do the things that you think you need to do. It doesn't matter who you're playing, because everybody you're playing has good players at every position, or they wouldn't be in the NFL. I know there are some guys that are better. I will say that when I was in Carolina, one of the things that we did, we went out and we drafted particular players for particular positions because of what our division's like. You have to have big physical corners. If you know, when we were in the NFC East, NFC South, because of the receiving cores we had. I mean, you know, there was a corner that I had that played against Julio, that played against Mike Evans, played against Michael Thomas. I mean, and he had to be a big physical guy. And last year he was a free agent, and he signed a very good contract because people in this league know that's the type of corner he is, and that's what we drafted there. So when we went into the draft, we knew that to be competitive, we had to have speed. We had to have speed in the secondary because the receivers in our division can run. We had to be stout up front on the offensive line because there's some good pass rushers. There's some good physical run defenders. Those were some of the things that we did consciously, knowing that we had to draft these types of guys. So I don't know if you necessarily draft because what your schedule says, but I think you draft based on your division, because if you want to go to the playoffs, you got to win your division. I believe that first and foremost. I think if you don't give yourself a chance to win your division, you don't get into the playoffs, and all you got to do is get in.